to the facility master plan that the college did back in 2005. We've increased enrollment. I mentioned our enrollment in the post-secondary programs of over 2,200 students. We've also increased the number of high school and apprenticeship students. And this quarter alone, we have a 20% increase in the number of businesses that participate in our apprenticeship program. So that's been very successful for us. In addition to that, we submitted through the ERA funding request over $9 million of projects for facilities, for additional facilities for our campus. And so we're very excited about that. Back in August when we had convocation, I kind of did an analysis and started to add up where did all the money come from for the last fiscal year and what did we do and how aggressive were we? Because a year ago, one of the goals I set was we're going to find additional financial resources for the college. And from August of 2008 to August of 2009, including the $9.5 million that we will receive in stimulus, the college applied and was awarded over $15 million in federal grants. So that was indeed a success for us. And so we know there's a lot of federal money out there. You just have to apply for it. You've got to get a plan in place. A concept is not as easy to sell as the architectural and engineering associated with what you want to do and how you're going to increase those programs. Additionally, we've also worked aggressively to include additional program areas, and so we recently got approved for surveying technology and 2 new forensic science concentrations that fall under our criminal justice programs. And these were all based on information that we had received. The past day and a half I've been spending with community colleges from the region, with our commissioners from ACCJC, and we're talking about program review and how does program review now link or need to link to institutional strategic planning and budgeting. So that's how the programs are going to be increasing for our community colleges in the region. We're also working with the community colleges, the University of Guam, the Manoa system, and Hilo, because articulation is very important to us. We need to provide that pathway for individuals to move from one institution to the next. And so that's important for us and our region, because we need to help foster that educational excellence that we continuously strive to attain. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Johnston?
Well, one of the things that came up when we developed the Trades Academy 3 years ago was the fact that people were believing that we were doing this for the build-up. We weren't doing it for the build-up. We were doing it because it was needed. If we had tied ourselves up to the build-up, if the build-up didn't happen, what are we going to do, close our doors? We were doing it because we felt it was needed. And there was a serious need at that time for construction workers. And so we were working on that concept, taking what we needed to get done and start to develop individuals. And when people would stop me and ask me what we did as a Trades Academy, I would say, well, construction companies build buildings. We build the people. And what we're hoping to do is not only build competencies, but in the process build confidence, because part of the equation of getting strong workforce is have people that are not only competent, but also confident in their work skills. And taking those individuals and getting them employed. And we're kind of proud of the fact that over the last 3 years, we've taught over 600 classes, over 500 students have taken our classes, and these people are now employed in over 45 different companies. We're just starting. Okay, and people say, you know, well, are you going to do this for the build-up? And I say, no, we're not the solution for the build-up. All we want to do is be a part of the equation of the build-up. But like James had mentioned earlier in the earlier panel, you don't want to train 20,000 construction workers, because what's going to happen when the construction's over? We're looking at developing the workforce that's already here, taking the existing workforce that's here, the existing construction workers, and training them up and improving on their skills, but also taking people that have an interest in the construction industry and building them up and increasing those skills. And there was some discussion earlier about retention. How do you retain individuals? And from my experience and from stuff that I've read and learned, people don't leave a job, they leave a boss. And so there's a strong need to improve the level of management here. And the University of Guam's been doing a very good job about that, improving the management level, but we need to do that across the board. We've been working very closely with the Guam Community College. In the last several months, we've had discussions about resurrecting some of the old associate degrees in construction technology that they've archived. They haven't had enough students to have that program going. Well, we're teaching people in the construction trades. Why can't we take our construction trades training, their academic training, bring it together? That same individual now can get a degree from the Guam Community College at the same time getting the training that we're providing. And so the effort that we're working with is working together in this community. We realize that even though we're just fairly new in this environment, that what we need to get done needs to be a community effort. And I always go back to a picture that I took off the internet, which basically showed people changing the roof of a house over 100 years ago on Guam. It was a thatch roof. Realizing that to do that couldn't be, a single family couldn't do it. It had to be done in a single day. What was required was a community effort. And so what the Trades Academy is doing is a community effort. It's a tradition that's been here for the longest time. We see that when we do Labor Day huts, when we build them. We see that when we build Liberation Day parades. Every time we have a fiesta or there's a funeral, the families and the community comes together. Why can't we do this with this common goal of building up the workforce here and building a middle class here on Guam? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Hawthorne, do you have anything else to add to your...
Yeah, I always have something to add. One of the things that I think is important, part of your question was the existence of DODEA schools, that the School of Ed recently signed an agreement for our students to student teach there. And I think this will be an enrichment for the island because our students will student teach there, see their approaches to education and so forth, and many of them will end up teaching in the DOE schools so that they'll bring some different ideas into the schools. And there's nothing more important to a healthy school system than to have new ideas coming in all the time. Another thing that we are doing is we are trying to get as much information from the schools as possible to find out what kinds of software and what kinds of curriculum materials they're using so that we can use some of those same materials in our college classrooms. We recently applied through stimulus money to buy some software that the schools have adopted so that when our students graduate, they'll be able to use that software day one when they walk into a classroom. So those are some of the kinds of day-to-day things that we're doing to get ready for both the build-up, but also we just need to help DOE improve their schools so that the children of Guam have more opportunities.
Okay, thank you, and we'll start again with Dr. Underwood. Dr. Underwood, what are the specific challenges that your institution faces in terms of facilities and the need for teachers? How does the existence of DODEA schools affect your work?
Well, I think that from the perspective of the Guam Department of Education, it's always instructive, as Dr. Hawthorne has pointed out, is to try to utilize the various school systems that exist on the island in order to inform and enrich each other's activities. And I think that's part of the process of signing that agreement. And I know there's some DODEA administrators are in the audience, so we want to kind of encourage that kind of activity. But at the same time, we do have a number of issues, and that is the structure of the educational profession. The structure of the educational profession is how do we train teachers? Where do we get teachers? What are we training teachers for? And how do we reward them and keep that system in place? It's not as simple as it is for perhaps other professions. So the structure of the systems of rewards, the structure of the nature of the activities that are carried out within the context of the school system are all push and pull systems. You know, most educational research in the past has indicated that classroom teachers rarely remain classroom teachers beyond 6, 7, 8 years. They go on and do something else. It's a pretty taxing kind of activity. So they go on and be administrators or counselors or do other things within the context of the school system. So this is the structure of the professional education is a little bit at risk right now, because there are so many opportunities to teach out there in various school systems.